Welcome to Movie Oubliette, the film review podcast for movies that most people have mercifully forgotten.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Conrad, and in each episode, we drag a forsaken film out of the oubliette,
Discuss it and judge it to decide whether it should be set free
or whether it should be thrown back and consigned to oblivion forever. We review the films others tend to forget. Come with us and open up the movie oubliette. Happy New Beer's Eve, listeners, and welcome to Movie Oubliette, the multi-continental podcast for forgotten fantastical films, with me, Conrad, doing a bit of house hunting just for a day out in Cambridge, UK.
And me, Dan, actually going to the concert that I was supposed to be going to down here in Melbourne, Australia.
Great. We focus on sci-fi, fantasy and horror movies because we think no dinner party is complete without interdimensional travel, hallucinating on ketamine and bludgeoning someone with a toilet lid. Dan, how are you? Hosted any dinner parties lately?
No. But we did go to that concert that we were supposed to go to, and it was incredible. It was incredible, yes. I guess I can mention the artist. So it was Vera Blue, and she was accompanied by the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra. So,
oh, wow.
Just a magical performance. No words can describe how good it was.
Oh, wow. I'm so jealous. Just the idea of seeing 100 musicians together on stage playing together. It must have been amazing. I can't even imagine that happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's opening up completely now in Australia. I think we're back to 100% capacity in workplaces. Masks are only needed on public transport and hospitals. And yeah, it's almost back to normal.
Wow, I'm incredibly jealous. Whereas here, for entertainment, I just go house hunting because although I can't have family visit me or spend time with friends, I am allowed to walk around a complete stranger's house with a mask on because apparently that's fine. Probably because somebody stands to make some money out of it. But
right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun.
Yeah, I guess it's, born out of spending a year in your house. You start looking at it and thinking, either I redecorate or move because I'm bored of this now. So I've just been looking at a few places, possibly with an eye to having a dedicated podcasting room with a bit of soundproofing.
Oh,
Might be fun.
Yeah. Wow. Have we got any new listeners peering into our podcast, Conrad?
We do indeed, yes. I want to say a welcome to our newest patron, Eva, who messaged us to thank us for providing such great content to get her through quarantine. Isn't that a lovely thing to say?
Oh, wow. That's so nice.
I like the idea that we're helping to maintain sanity.
Yes. Our soothing tones, getting people through the lockdowns.
We also got some feedback on Outland, which was the subject of our previous episode. Jake Armistead said, one of my favourites from a director I feel is rather underappreciated. I think that's something that we would agree with. Yeah, we've done a couple of Peter Hyams, and there's more in the oubliette, sadly, so we may cover some more in future.
Yes.
Ben J. Grimm 64 said, dang, I haven't seen Outland since I watched it in the cinema back in 1981.
Wow.
Always regretted not buying the amazing Steranko comic adaptation from Heavy Metal.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know that you got comic book adaptations for one-off movies. It sounds really weird rather than franchises.
I guess a different time.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, possibly wouldn't happen now. In reference to Andrew Ainsworth's spacesuit costumes for Outland, Glazy UK pointed out that they've seen later use in Red Dwarf. Have you ever seen that British TV series?
Yeah. I watched as much as I could stomach because it gets very bad.
It does, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, one of the writers walked away and you can tell.
Yeah.
You really can tell. But yes, he points out that the Outland
spacesuit is what Lister is wearing when he's cleaning the outside of the spaceship in the main titles.
Wow.
So there you go.
That's a great piece of trivia.
It is, yeah. So thanks for telling us that, Glazy UK. And you'll be surprised to hear that we heard from one Serge of Cold Crash Pictures.
Of course. Hey, Serge.
Hey, Serge. Who says Outland has impressive production design, good character moments, and there's something, I don't know, serene about the methodical plot progression, but I do kind of think it's anticlimactic, though. The hero's sort of invincible, but these were problems with High Noon as well.
Right.
So a guy in a desperate situation who needs help, and rather than the ending of the movie being everybody bands together and helps him, it's just like, no, he's fine.
Yeah. It's just a flesh wound, right?
Yeah. Serge also pointed out that the latest episode of Movie Oubliette, which delves deep into the production and history of this underrated cult classic from Peter Hyams, features not one but 2 shout-outs to yours truly, so clearly it's probably one of their best episodes ever.
Oh. What does that mean? We need to mention Serge a bit more.
Yeah, maybe 3 times. See if we can manage that today. Anyway, thank you everyone for getting in touch, and please do carry on commenting and sending us messages. We love to hear from you. But in the meantime, I would love to hear from you, Dan, what we're going to get from the oubliette this time.
Right, yes, I will just go fetch it. Oh, I'm outside. A very dark, dimly lit street.
Yeah, even the street lamps aren't on.
Oh, I see the movie in a car?
Oh.
I don't have the key. I hope they don't mind this.
You vandal.
Oh my God.
What is it?
It's us, Conrad.
Weird.
But they're holding red glow sticks?
Oh, run away. They're evil.
Oh, okay.
Whoa, that isn't my husband. I killed him last week.
I'm back.
Oh, welcome back. Lucky escape. So what do you have for us?
Well, today we will be discussing the 2013 sci-fi film Coherence.
Haven't seen that one.
Well, I have. It's directed by James Ward Byrkit, and it stars Emily Baldoni, Maury Sterling, Nicolas Brendon, Lorraine Scafaria, Elizabeth Grayson, Hugo Armstrong, Alex Manoogian, and Lauren Mayer.
And what happens in it?
Well, on this fateful night, 7 friends and Xander from Buffy get together for a quiet dinner party full of cheer, wine, good food, and maybe a whisper of ketamine. However, dimensional paradoxes have other plans as a celestial object plunges the friends into a multiverse where doppelgangers of themselves threaten to unravel reality itself.
Oof.
Will dice rolled, assigned numbers, random objects, and strongly worded notes solve their obstacles, or will something much more grim be in order?
Ooh.
We'll find out. Incoherence.
Incoherence. I hope not.
Oh, yeah, that does sound weird.
Okay, we'll be back after this break.
And we will be joined by a guest.
We will, yes, thank goodness. Hopefully they can unravel the incoherence.
Yes.
Back soon. Our special guest today is a keen long-distance cycle tourist, dedicated couch surfer, and more importantly, the host of TV Trivia Pod, Brian Sheehan. Hello, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me. Had a round of applause. That's new. That's new. Thank you.
So how are you and how are things where you are?
I'm great. I am close to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, United States. I'm a teacher in the area. It's exciting that spring break is coming up at the time we're recording this, and we're about to begin our 4th quarter, which means only 25% of the year to go.
Wow.
Great. I have to ask, what do you teach?
I teach chemistry.
Oh.
Cool. It's fun. I do enjoy that a lot. And in the rest of my free time, I love watching movies.
And TV shows.
Ah, yes, TV shows, the subject of your podcast, which I have to say, I'd never come across this genre of podcasts before. And when I listened to it, I thought, this is such a good idea for a format.
I appreciate that. You're not familiar with, like, I guess, trivia podcasts?
No, it had never occurred to me. And yet it makes so much sense that, for example, on a long car journey, what could be more fun than racking your brain trying to remember the answer to some trivia question to one of your favorite shows? It's really entertaining.
I have a lot of fun with mine. So mine is called TV Trivia Pod, where I just ask trivia questions from TV shows. There are a good bit of trivia podcasts out there now that I guess I'm in that realm and I've done a little bit of research. For mine, I talk about the only thing that I know anything about, which is watching television shows. So right now I've covered some of The Office, Rick and Morty, and The Boys. So, if those are shows you enjoy, or, things you might know something about, I usually say if you know the name of Morty's crush, the girl he has a crush on, or maybe the name of Michael Scott's self-made screenplay. If you like answering questions like that, this might be the podcast for you.
I listened to a couple of episodes of the Rick and Morty. Yeah, Rick and Morty is very dense, so I could understand so much trivia coming from that show.
There is a ton, especially when we're getting into the interdimensional cable episodes.
Yes.
And things like that. There's so much random stuff all thrown together. Yeah, I think I found that I like doing these comedy shows more. I feel like there's more to draw from each episode.
Yes.
And it's just more fun to talk about, I think, in general, But yeah, it's been a blast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of interdimensional travel, the movie you have picked for us today is Coherence. Did you want to start us off with how you came across this movie, why you chose it, what sort of sparked your interest?
This movie, Coherence, I thought was like a needle in a haystack, but I found it with my friends. We're really into sci-fi. We love being able to discuss a movie after we've seen it. What just happened? Can we explain it? Things like that. Things like, The Matrix, Inception, just to name a popular few. We stumbled upon this one, and I guess kind of a genre called low budget, high concept, where it's these kind of indie, cheaper made films that don't take a lot. As you've seen, this movie takes place in a single house, single in, I guess, parentheses there, but conceptually was just really cool. Really enjoyed thinking about this movie. And again, with these type of indie sci-fi movies, there are a lot of flops out there, but there are a lot of really cool ones too. So this was a lucky find for us.
Yeah. You mentioned how sort of like close, a small concept it was. It did remind me of movies like The Cube or Primer, which have very simple setups with like actors and locations, but yeah, more confusing plots and outcomes.
Primer is one that I still don't understand today, and I've seen the charts and still can't make heads or tails of it.
No, me neither. I think this one is very carefully worked out by the director, James Ward Byrkit. He had a different start in the film world. He was a conceptual artist, storyboard artist, so he was probably most successful, famous for designing sequences in Gore Verbinski's Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Very cool.
Yeah, and he co-wrote Rango. So he's used to conceptualizing things and working out really complicated sequences. And I get the sense that this movie is very carefully thought out in the same way that Primer is. But it doesn't seem to be quite as confusing, maybe, as Primer.
Nothing for me has been as confusing as Primer. Tenet might be the next thing, Christopher Nolan's new movie. But I get Tenet, but I just can't figure out how all the pieces fit together, I think. Whereas I don't know if I even understand Primer. But yeah, this is the type of movie that I really enjoy, where it is possible to think through things. We can put things together here in a way that makes sense to me. This was, again, a very well-written movie. They thought about a lot going into this.
Yeah. So I first heard about this movie from listening to another podcast called Ghoulish Cast. And one of the co-hosts on it, Danielle, was talking about this movie and how undiscovered it is. And I'd never heard of it. And when I watched it, it did have this really sort of low budget, sort of lo-fi quality to it. And very, like, almost immersive. Like, you felt like you were in the room listening to a conversation, and you would flick this way and you'll flick that way as sort of conversations kind of overlapped. It's sort of a different experience.
I will say the first time I watched it, I was in my apartment, and when things started happening, I just double checked to make sure the door was locked.
Oh, yeah.
I was getting really into it.
Yeah, it almost has that found footage feel to it, but thankfully it doesn't take that approach, because that had become quite tiresome, I think, by 2013, which was when this film was released. Although it does share, in terms of its methodology, a technique that was used in the Blair Witch Project, which is that it's a group of actors that are very good at improvising, being given prompts, cards, where they know their character's backstory, and they're just being told, day one of filming, this is your envelope and these are the beats that you've got to hit. And the director knew the shape of the whole story, but the actors didn't. There was no script that they were reading before they went into it. They just knew that they were filming for 5 nights, and they would be given an envelope at the beginning of each night. They'd be given plot points and speeches, and they would riff on them together. And they had 2 cameras, and they just filmed all of it very loose, so the actors could go anywhere that they wanted, do anything they wanted, as long as they were true to their character. So I just think with that kind of thing, it's a minor miracle that you end up with anything that's coherent at the end of it. Coherent, oh dear.
Oh, man.
Pun not intended. I walked right into that one. But yeah.
It really is. I did love stumbling upon that fact that there wasn't much of a script. There was things that we needed to talk about. Act surprised when this happens again, or that was really cool.
Yeah, it's clever.
Yeah, and it must have taken a ton of editing, but it worked.
Yes, and I heard the director kind of just let them go, and even if it was straying down a path that he didn't actually want to go, that he didn't want to stop their flow.
Yeah.
So they would just act out a scene, and then, 10 minutes later, after they've cut, he would be like, oh, let's try it again, but maybe don't cry, or
Sure.
which is pretty amazing, like having so much faith in the actors sort of delivering your scenes, not even how you intended them.
And sometimes he would have to intervene because it really wasn't going the way that he wanted. So, for example, when Hugh and Amir come back to the house, they wouldn't let them in for 45 minutes because they were frightened of them.
Yeah.
And
right.
so he had to intervene and say, no, you've got to let them in or the plot won't continue. So,
Yes.
So yeah.
It just would have taken a different turn.
Yeah, really would have done.
Yeah, I heard that one of the actresses didn't even realize it was going to be like this sort of thriller sci-fi. She thought it was a comedy.
Yeah, I didn't hear that. Wow.
So I was like, I think like 3 days in, she thought, oh, improv, it's going to be a comedy, right?
No. One of the things that I'd be interested to talk about is the improvisational acting style. It does have its benefits. It feels very dynamic. It feels very real and spontaneous. But at the same time, I do think it has its downfalls. It does feel as though the characters are just a bunch of people who have been thrust together who haven't really met each other, which is not what they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be old friends, and some of them are supposed to be married. But sometimes I did get the feeling that they weren't very familiar with each other, and they would only refer to things that one of them had said earlier on in the improv for that scene. Was that something that you found?
I have actually watched a lot of improv comedy. So I do see those kind of reacting to a thing that you would often see in improv comedy. And I did find maybe the reactions were a little bit too obvious as well.
Yeah.
And also just the constant, I'm going to go back to the house. It's like, no, you've just been to the house. Like, stop going to the house. Let's all go outside again. That panned out well last time. Like, don't go outside again. So, yeah, I did find like maybe some of the reactions could have been less natural, but I did really connect with the conversational style of acting. It just seems so relatable. But there were, I don't know, a few plot points that I would like question, like how Mike would jump from, oh, there's another one of us. I'm going to kill my other self. Like, what? How did you come to that conclusion?
You know, I thought it was quite a jump, but I want to say maybe around that time he was starting to think about drinking or something, which we find out he has an alcohol problem, takes it a little too far and maybe becomes violent because of it. This was something that he could see himself doing, so... Spoilers, right? If you're listening to this, hopefully you've seen it.
Yeah.
His other self maybe just started drinking, maybe he's a little woozy, maybe get him before he starts drinking and gets violent. You know, at one point we see him attack himself, right? So
he is right. His fears come true.
Yeah, I can see that with some of the reactions seeming a little unnatural. I believe there was another point in there where Mike admitted to cheating on his wife with his friend's wife, and he got decked, and his wife said, like, let me get you an ice pack or something, where, you know, maybe she would have been a little angrier.
Yeah.
You know, having maybe just found this out.
Yeah. Actually, come to think of it, in terms of improv comedy, you're often given like a prompt. When you kind of know that this movie was improv, I can see the prompts now. Like the book is a prompt.
The book is a really bad one.
The box is a prompt. The comet is a prompt. You know, these are things that they're given to kind of riff off. And yeah, you can kind of see that now.
You can. And sometimes it works. Like the character that's given lots of comet stories to talk about does a pretty good job of reeling off the comet stories and even correcting somebody else that tries to tell one.
Yeah.
That's our main character, M, who corrects Hugh. But there are other times when you can tell that the actor's been a little bit lazy and hasn't memorized their prompt card very well, because they will just say something like, do you have any physics books in the house? And Mike is saying, I'm an actor. No, I don't. And somebody says, oh, there was a book your brother left, and I wrapped it up and put it in the back of the car, but I can't remember what it is. And you think, no, that's too vague. That's far too vague. You need to have said, oh, your brother left a physics book. You know, something a little bit more, but she clearly forgot what it was. There was so much business about going to get this damn book, and they didn't even know what it was before they got it, and then it turned out to be an expositional Bible pretty much for the rest of the movie. So, yeah, that one I found a bit clunky, and it kind of burst the bubble a little bit for me for a while.
It did seem, I guess, kind of like a long shot. Again, that this book seemed to address the issue at hand.
Lucky.
We know that Hugh's brother knows something about what's going on because his brother said, you know, like, call me if weird things start happening, you know, like his brother knows something.
Yeah. I did find the book, it did explain a lot, but I didn't really understand the importance of it after they read it. Like they were trying to hide it, and then the other Hugh and Amir took the book, and then there was the business about the car, and I don't know. It just seemed like a lot of importance about something that wasn't really that important.
Yeah, I think it was because they were trying to hide all the expositional information from the other houses, because then they wouldn't be taking the actions that they were taking.
So I think the book made them believe that after the comet passed, right now we have these two realities that they're kind of stuck on the idea that there are two, me versus them, and that after the comet passes, they will collapse into one. And the book, they got the idea that we don't want to be the ones to be collapsed upon. Maybe we should like go attack them or something so that we are the ones left over, that we are the alphas here. And I think that's why they wanted to hide the book, so that the other house wouldn't get the idea to attack them. I think that's where most of the book stuff came in.
Right. What was really shocking, I guess, about this movie, because you figured out pretty quick that there were like doppelgangers, but then the moment we figure out there's even more realities, it's not just one, it's like 10 or 20, infinite amount of realities overlapping, then it just really blows your mind.
I quite like it early on when they just think that it's like House A and House B, and they're using those glow sticks because the power's out, and one of them's blue and one of them's red, and it's kind of like blue and red lightsabers in Star Wars, so you immediately think the red ones are evil. You see them on the street and start running away. All of that kind of stuff is quite self-contained and fun, although I do find it a bit frustrating that they never actually speak to their doppelgangers. I think when they get back, somebody says, and you didn't say anything to them? And I thought, why don't you speak to them? I think it would be really interesting. It's almost like they're worried that Doc Brown's theory about what happens when you meet your double in time might come true, that the whole universe collapses or you faint. One of the two.
My theory is it would have been impossible improv-wise.
Oh, yeah, they wouldn't have been able to film it. No.
Yeah, to act with yourself in a scene that hasn't been filmed yet.
No.
Improved.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I think that was just technically just impossible. Yeah, I would have loved to have more interactions between the doppelgangers and more sort of trying to figure out between the doppelgangers, like trying to figure out how they were going to get out of it, but they never interacted really, apart from like Mike getting sucker punched by his twin. We haven't talked about it. Mike is played by Xander
from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And he's really good in it. I think he's great at improv. He's very funny. Lots of callbacks to earlier things like the running gag about the ketamine. But he's playing a character that's a little bit close to the bone, I thought, because he's an actor who's in a dry spell. He was on a TV show for several years. He says it's Roswell, which is a real TV show, but Nicolas Brendon was never in it. And he's having problems with alcohol, substance abuse. And you think, gosh, this is a bit close to the bone for Nicolas Brendon to play, because this is all things that he's experienced himself personally, and also dealing with issues of kind of hating himself, really, which he has talked about.
Wow. Yeah. I did not know all that was going on for him at the time. And I do feel like for the most part, they say that, that lies come from simple truths as well. You start with something that's true and then expand upon that. And even with actors, and we see a lot of actors in different movies, but playing these similar characters that you have to imagine are what they kind of are like in real life. All the Tom Cruise movies are. We've seen this character before. The same with Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm pretty sure he makes that same glaring face in Shutter Island as he does in Inception. We've seen these faces in different movies, and I wonder if that's something that might have helped play that part, although also confront some maybe uncomfortable truths that I might try to avoid in a movie.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think the director kind of tried to not really play it safe, but play it a little bit safer to have the characters kind of not base it on themselves, but even the fact that a lot of the characters are their names.
Yeah.
So Emily Baldoni is M, and then you've got Lorraine Scafaria is Lee, Elizabeth Grayson is Beth, Hugo Armstrong is Hugh. So like I think it's a way for them to still improv easily without getting confused by
still maintaining their identity.
Yeah, exactly.
But it also plays into this doppelganger theme that you have running throughout the movie. It's kind of an intertextual thing. So the movie plays with everybody having these doppelgangers, and they're kind of playing doppelgangers of themselves in the movie.
Wow.
One thing that I heard the director say in a talk or interview, where the first divergent point is actually at the start when Em is parking her car.
Right.
So she's actually going into a house that maybe not even the house that she's supposed to be going to.
Right.
And that's why one of the characters doesn't remember Mike being in Roswell. Because she's from a different parallel universe and he's from a different parallel universe.
Oh my God.
So the original house is not even the original house, which blows my mind.
My mind was already blown by M looking at all the numbers and realizing, sort of at the beginning of the third act, I think, that nobody is from the original house apart from three of them.
Yeah.
But even she's probably in the wrong place to start with.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I guess that thing from the beginning just blew my mind. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But I want to say most of the times when they were traveling, they did it together in a pack. But I guess there was that one time when maybe they all checked on their cars.
Yeah.
And then from that point, it's game over.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. There are some really creepy moments in there too. I particularly like the scene where M bumps into Kevin, who is her other half. And they just have this exchange that makes her realize that he is the wrong wrong Kevin. And they just look at each other and slowly back away. And it is so disturbing. And I have no idea why.
Yeah, it is very disturbing. And when she figures out the numbers don't correlate and they start saying their random object. So in the box, they all roll a dice and they have corresponding numbers to their name, and then they put a random object in. And everyone shouts out a completely different random object.
Yeah.
And it's creepy.
That was really cool. And there was a scene when I think they first started realizing it, when Lee and Beth are talking about a plant that she got in her kitchen from a thrift store. And Lee backs away and, the music gets a little tense. And I'm like, I know she just realized something, but I'm not sure what. I did have to go back to the beginning of the movie where Lee and Beth say the same exact thing.
Right.
But apparently they didn't realize it here. And now Em knows that this is not her, Beth and Lee.
Yeah.
And when Hugh and Tamir pull out the red glow sticks, I'm like, oh man. Like,
yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
And what is it about doppelgangers that we find so disturbing? I mean, I looked this up today, what it is about twins and doppelgangers, and all I can find are all these Freudian things about being terrified of not being unique, of there being another part of you that you can't control almost. Because I think, Dan, you said there was a whole bevy of these doppelganger movies.
So I looked it up because there were a couple of movies that sprung to mind, The Double and Enemy.
Yeah.
And they both came out the same year that Coherence came out.
Really?
So
wow.
I guess, all three movies came out in 2013, which is just insane. That I guess that's how it goes. Armageddon and Deep Impact came out the same year. It's synchronicity, I guess. But I think the idea of not feeling like you are the only one is the scary thought. It's similar to movies like The Island. Yeah, that feeling of not feeling like you're an actual person, I guess.
Interesting segue there. I just started watching Orphan Black.
Oh, yes.
Another cloning one.
Yeah.
I have to imagine too that part of the fear there. I don't right now. I feel like meeting someone that looks exactly like me would kind of be cool, or even meeting my twin would sometimes sounds exciting to me, depending on the situation, I think. But in this movie too, the power got shut down. There's all the lights on the street are dark. They're already in kind of a tense situation. And then all of a sudden this kind of weird stuff starts happening. Does not help.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I was just aware that in other contexts, bumping into another version of yourself has been sort of comedic or fun rather than terrifying.
Multiplicity.
Yeah, exactly. In The Time Traveler's Wife, in the book, not in the film, they didn't go as far as to depict this in the film, but in The Time Traveler's Wife, there's even an episode where a teenaged version of the time traveler has an intimate moment with another teenage version of himself, because teenagers, I guess. It's the ultimate form of vanity, I suppose. But yet it's often presented in a comedic way a lot of the time, whereas here it's terrifying. And the director's talked about that in terms of it being one of these things where you project the worst version of yourself onto your doppelganger. It's all of your worst fears being projected. You know the worst thing you would do, so you immediately assume that the other version of you would do that.
Right.
And that's the direction that Mike goes in, to the point where he becomes homicidal and Nicolas, Brendon's twin brother, has to burst into the room and deck him. So that's fun.
I never realized he had a twin. That's such a trump card to pull out.
Yeah, I mean, I remember looking through the cast of that, and, a lot of them I recognized as, this must be this person's double for maybe when we see him across the street, or a quick bump in or something. Or I thought the same thing for this quick time where he came in and punched himself. I just thought that was... the person on the floor was the double because we saw the face of that Mike as he backed up, and we didn't see our Mike, and I figured had to be a double. I mean, the same thing happens with M. She only interacts with herself towards the end of the movie more violently, but, we see the hair and, nothing else.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite handy, isn't it, having a twin in situations like this? I remember when Linda Hamilton in Terminator 2, when they needed scenes where the T-1000 would imitate her and show up and they would need two of her on screen, she suddenly raised her hand and said, I have a twin sister. Would that be useful?
Wow. I never never knew that.
Yeah.
Did not know that either.
Yep. Leslie Hamilton. Yep. Showed up, put on her sister's clothes, played the T-1000. I think she's in a couple of shots, actually. I think she's in a mirror shot as well.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Cheap special effect.
But better than putting CGI over somebody's face like they do in some of the new movies and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah. We should talk about the ending. How did you guys like the ending?
I liked it. I would have liked to see what happened after that. I think that in her situation, that was a totally reasonable decision to make. So we all know that about this reality thing going on at this point. All the characters do. And she decides to go through as many times as she can till she can find one she's happy in and then take her place.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought that was an interesting way to end it. I think in her shoes, I might have taken a few more permanent actions to make sure I was the only one.
Yeah. So she drugs herself and then lets her drugged self roam free.
I believe she put her in the trunk of her car.
Yeah. But she still comes back, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Again, not sure if that's her or maybe another.
Oh, that's true. It could be another one.
Could be.
But yeah, she does somehow get into the bathroom there and again gets hit with that toilet lid.
Yeah. I love it at that scene because it's very tense. The music's going and then the lights start flashing because that's what happens in movies. And it's just like an assistant going flick, 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 flick.
Yeah, it's kind of like somebody's mum trying to break a fight up, like just turning the lights on and off. Yeah. Like Marge Simpson.
What about you guys?
I really liked the ending. I thought it was a bit expected and a little bit like almost like tapped on. It felt much more written and planned out, I guess, as opposed to the rest of the improv. I did really like the end where, Kevin gets a call from herself, but it's her other self. And so there are two M's in the same universe, which was like amazing. But that's such a short film ending, like a cliffhanger. It's like, oh, and then credits. Like, but they always do.
Yeah.
Right.
It does feel as though the movie shifts gears into more of a scripted thriller for the last 15 minutes.
I mean,
so.
they kind of needed an ending.
Yeah.
They wanted something definitive.
Yeah. And it is set up at the beginning. I mean, this conversation about a moment in M's professional life as a dancer where she spent all this time preparing this production and at the last minute they switched her out for another dancer. Somebody says, oh, this woman, Catherine Merris, has your life.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she has this whole thing about how she doesn't make decisions, like her boyfriend Kevin's asking her to go away with him. He's got a job in another country or something, and she can't decide whether to go with him or not and is hesitating. So there's this ex-girlfriend that's sort of circling, trying to take her life again. So at the end, she takes charge, goes on a shopping spree, finds a life that she likes, and then smacks the other version, the understudy, in the face with a toilet lid and tries to take it.
Yeah.
So it's progress, I guess.
Yeah, it's a character arc. Yes, yes. It's funny when she was going through all the different houses, picking the best one. I watched it with my wife, and she said, "Oh, she's going window shopping," like literally.
That's really cool that connection you drew there with this doppelganger thing. She has your life. That's some pretty cool connections there.
There are lots of them in the script. I mean, even just simple lines like when Amir is leaving the house the first time, you hear him in the background shouting out something like, I couldn't find my shoes, so I'm taking yours. So he's going to walk a few miles in Beth's shoes. They're improvising, but the stuff they're coming out with is really on point in terms of the theme of the movie.
Yeah. And also, even though the film was improvised, there were a lot of planned out themes and ideas. Like the fact that they go through the door that is a door to nowhere, it's a portal. Even at the start where M is talking on the phone, she says, oh, I have to parallel park. It's like parallel dimension park? Is that?
Holy smokes.
Yeah, and there's the scene where Beth complains about Mike, he's not the man I married, which is a direct link back to the Finland comet story that was told earlier on in the dinner party about the woman saying, this man isn't the man I married. I know that because I killed him.
Yes.
And he's back again, so something's wrong here. Yeah. There are all these connections throughout the movie. It's quite dense, actually. It's really fun to watch multiple times, I would say.
Yeah. This is the second time I've watched it, and I enjoyed it just as much the second time. There is a lot of things that you don't notice.
Yeah, this is my third overall time, and apparently still a lot I haven't noticed.
Yeah, sure.
It's a fun movie.
Now it's time for Random Trivia.
Okay, Dan, usually this is the part of the podcast where you wow us with a piece of previously unheard trivia about the movie, probably read on Wikipedia.
Not all the time.
But this time, giving away the secrets, but this time, as we have Brian here from the TV Trivia Pod, we thought it'd be fun if Brian quizzed us with some trivia from the movie. So, with much trepidation, go for it, Brian. I don't think I'm going to get any of these right.
All right. Starting with question number 1 here. What's the main ingredient people are worried about in Beth's concoction?
That would be the ketamine.
That would be the ketamine, yes.
Yes. I was thinking, what if the movie was that they were all drugged? And that was the twist of the movie.
And they mentioned that at some point, right?
Yeah.
Beth, did you drug the food?
That is one of the tense scenes.
A very different type of movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're all tripping. Yeah.
The actor friend Mike acted in a show called what and played what character?
In the movie, he's supposed to be in Roswell.
Oh, yes.
Which he wasn't. But I don't know which character he played. Didn't
It
he
was
just say,
like-
I was one of the main guys? I can't remember if he specified who
It's
it
like
was.
Joe? Was it Joe?
Joe is correct.
Well
yeah.
done. Well done. Because it didn't seem like he could even remember.
Yeah.
It's almost like he was trying to pluck it out of thin air.
All right, I got 2 more here for you. What does the girl with glasses, or Lee, what does Lee say is the most common dog name?
Oh, it's Bear.
Bear, yes, that's right.
I
Yeah.
don't believe that. That's a lie. Surely.
It seems unlikely.
It's got to be Spot.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I can't imagine calling my King Charles Cavalier Bear. I don't think I'd be able to pull that off.
As a dog owner that frequents the dog park, I have to say Ollie and Chloe are the most common dog names that I have
Really?
Interesting. All
down
right.
here in
My
Australia.
dog's called Chloe.
I've met so many Chloes.
Oh, wow. Wasn't very original, obviously. Sorry.
And maybe your last question, unless this one might be too hard. I believe it was only mentioned once or twice. What is the name of the comet?
Oh.
Oh, that is a good question.
But pretty important, to...
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, it's crucial. I think you've stumped us.
Yeah.
What is the name of the comet?
It is Miller's Comet.
Oh, it must have some significance.
Yeah, surely. Well, good questions, Brian.
Hey.
Good questions, yeah.
Thank
That
you
was
very
fun.
much.
We should have you back every episode just
Yeah.
to ask us questions.
Yeah. And that's our trivia. I have heard people point out similarities between this movie and the Dogma 95 way of filming. So using only what you get on camera pretty much and straying away from filters and effects and stuff like that. The crew was so small, just 2 cameras, 2 sound people, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. It might be interesting from your perspective, Dan, as a sound designer, when the director said on the commentary that he wasn't too worried about the image, that he knew he could play sort of fast and loose with that and it could look a little bit sort of shaky and unprofessional and focus shifting and all this. But the sound had to be good.
Yes.
That an audience would tolerate a stylistically amateurish visual as long as the sound is good.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I guess at that point we have Blair Witch Project and Cloverfield with our shaky camera. I remember rewatching Cloverfield kind of recently and feeling like I almost got sick with how much the camera moved there, where this more has, I guess, kind of like a vibe like The Office.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a really good job with what they had.
Yes. And also, I feel like sound grounds a picture as well. So you can have shaky, blurry images, and as long as you can hear everything and you can figure out sonically what's going on, it doesn't matter so much what's on screen. Because I mean, I've worked with films before where like visually, it's just a mess. It's just so many cuts. It just doesn't make any sense. But if you've got the sound telling the story, then it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did find some of the close-ups in this. There's a lot of close-ups in this movie. Like so much so that I'm just like, I wish this actor would just step this way so I could actually see what's going on. But I guess the director was trying to utilize the space and sort of create this sort of intimacy in terms of the group of people.
Yeah.
When you say that, I the first scene I think of is the one where Lorraine kind of finds Kevin alone and to talk to him and sneak that kiss with him. And I think the camera's again one of those like really close. But I guess, you know, this was supposed to be kind of like a secret moment.
Yeah.
I guess maybe that does play into the closeness of the shooting there.
Yeah. I think also the impetus to make this movie as well was the fact that I think at the time the 5D Canon digital SLRs had just come out. So like they could film a movie digitally with the smaller camera and they could get it up close and personal and intimate without being too sort of intrusive of being the crew with huge camera.
Yeah.
So that's why, some of the shots aren't perfect and a bit shaky and a bit dark and a bit grainy.
Yeah. And what did we think of the music by Kristen Ornderud? I'm not sure how you pronounce that at all. But a lot of people don't realize that there's much music in it at all. And yet it's pretty much fully scored throughout the entire movie. And I did notice it the second time that it is always there creating this atmosphere, but it shifts between creating just sort of a sonic texture there, a sort of underlying sense of tension the whole time, rather than the sort of more showy pieces like the bathroom attack and the window shopping sequence, which is probably the ones where you really notice the music. I really liked it. I thought it worked really well.
I guess it does feel really natural. Like you said, I can't remember hearing it stand out too much. Like you said, the whole movie was almost scored, and I barely even acknowledged that, I guess. And I think it fit with everything really well. I think there was a really nice smoothness to everything that the music, you know, aided there in what was happening in the scene.
Yeah. I didn't notice the music at all, actually.
No.
When I watched it. So I guess it did its job in sort of creating a mood and tension. I did read that a lot of the music was just recorded vocals and toy instruments. And the composer, she just manipulated it and, you know, reversed it and put heaps of effects to make it sound a lot more ethereal and strange.
Wow.
But it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's really creative. It's fun to listen to on its own, actually. I was listening to it today while I was working, and it was...
Oh, yes.
It's on Apple Music or Spotify. If you want to listen to it, it's there.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
There's not a lot of music, these background noises for movies that I really remember. You know, it's like, oh, Pina Colada, that's from Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, like I remember music like that. The only other time I can recall remembering music is from Requiem for a Dream.
Oh, yes, that piece.
Yeah.
There's some tense music in there that still makes me shiver if I hear these songs being played, and I just switch to the next one. I'm like, this is too... I didn't know this was a lot, but it did feel, I guess, really natural. I liked how everything worked in this movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
It does create a very coherent experience. There it goes again.
Oh, man.
Coming to you live from the Movie Oubliette Theatre, it's the prestigious Mobley Awards.
Hey, it's the Mobley Awards. It's just me and Conrad. It's where we present our favourite doppelganger parts of the film in a number of Schrödinger cat mind-melding categories.
Best quote.
I did really like the explanation of Schrödinger's cat because that's something I've never really had explained to me as simply as they did in the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, so me as being very slow-witted, thank you. I now understand that concept. What was your favorite quote?
My favorite quote comes from Nicolas Brendon as Mike, or Xander, as I cannot help but think of him, bless him, because he just has such great timing. Although I have to say, I didn't think it was very wise for him when his friend Hugh has just realized that he's had a relationship with his wife. He's arguing that there's like different realities at play, and Mike says, if there are a million different realities, I have slept with your wife in every single one of them. Seems like totally the wrong thing to say, Mike.
Way to de-escalate the situation.
Yeah. No wonder you get a broken nose.
Best hair or costume?
My favourite was Xander again. It's just, he's wearing a waistcoat or a vest, if you're an American. And I just love a good waistcoat. Whenever I see a man in a movie who's not at a wedding wearing a waistcoat, I appreciate it. I often wear them myself. So that was my favourite. How about you?
Nothing really stood out. It was very natural, very normal, well-dressed, normal people.
Yeah.
Having a dinner party, you know.
Most 2010s moment.
The most 2010s part of this film was when someone asked if they had a landline and they didn't. Because I haven't had a landline since 2008, I think.
Wow.
So yeah, it's always really confusing for me when there's a recent movie where someone uses a landline because I just don't see them anymore.
Wow. Now, see, I do still have one, and it's purely for the reason that, I don't know, I just feel like it's a good backup to have because you will still be able to call an ambulance with it, even if the cell towers are down.
Yeah, that's true.
There you go.
That's true.
There you go.
Not in my house. What was your most 2010s part of this film?
Well, I was going to say the use of the Canon 5D, because it was kind of seminal. You know, we were just kind of shifting over from 35mm film, physical film, onto digital filming, and the red camera in the early 2000s being used like on the Star Wars movie, and just the emergence of this SLR that was capable of HD video recording. It just unleashed this whole wave of very, very low budget independent filmmaking and made films like Coherence possible. Yeah. Opened up a whole new range of filmmaking.
Yeah.
Favorite scene?
My favorite scene is Em window shopping for her favorite cozy reality that she then wants to commit murder to insinuate herself into. Yes. I thought it was really fun just seeing all these different varieties, especially there was the one party where everyone was fine, hadn't even noticed, power hadn't gone out, they're all happy. Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was really fun.
And then the pans to the other one where Mike and someone else are tied up and gagged to a chair.
Yeah, what the hell's going on in that one?
I don't know.
Apparently there was a deleted scene where Mike was dead on the floor and they're holding a seance. So
wow.
There were some extreme realities that we didn't get to see.
Yeah, wow. Well, my favorite scene in this movie, I feel like there were three really pivotal scenes. The scene where they find the note that he was just written on their front door. Yeah. That was, you know, one of the oh my God, chills moment. The scene where the group see themselves on the street and just bolt. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
And also, yes, the scene where M figures out that, hang on, every single person in the room is from a different reality. Yeah. Just chills. Each scene chills.
Yeah, it's really good. That and the scene where she and Kevin realize they're from different realities.
Oh, yes.
I love that scene.
Most cliche sci-fi moment.
There's a few, I guess. Power cuts and, you know, phones not working, no reception. But there's one cliche in these kind of time travel / parallel dimension movies that kind of annoys me, where something happens because your other self has told you to do that thing.
Right.
So when they figure out the numbers in the box, but they've already seen the box with the numbers, so it's like which one came first?
Yeah.
It's like a chicken and egg sort of scenario.
Yeah. I know what you mean, because the whole thing falls apart if that didn't happen. So yeah, it's all a bit convenient, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, I guess it's justified because there are like multiple versions, and at least one of them would have come up with that concept. So
yeah, but so fast, or are they running at different speeds, or?
Well, I guess they are, because there's that one reality where they haven't even had the power cut yet.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Maybe one reality they have a different time that they have the dinner. You know, there's so many possibilities.
I guess so.
Of differences. So
yeah, I don't know how that works.
they should have done one reality though, like Rick and Morty or something, where they're just all lizard people.
Now that would have been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought the biggest cliche in this movie was comets are magical.
Oh, yes.
They reduce people to powder or turn them into zombies, depending on their exposure level, in Night of the Comet from 1984,
Yes,
starring
yes.
our previous guest, Catherine Mary Stewart, and Kelly Maroney. The tail of the comet brings all electrical devices to homicidal life in Stephen King's directorial debut, Maximum Overdrive.
Overdrive, yes.
1986. And they contain naked space vampires in Toby Hooper's Life Force from 1985.
Oh, yes. That's a uncomfortable watch. Naked woman for most of the movie.
Yeah, it is if you're a teenage boy, a straight teenage boy. Yeah. Comets.
Best special effect.
Well, speaking of special effects, the only special effect I can think of in this movie is the comet.
Yes. Although the director won't explain how it was done.
All right.
Apparently, it was achieved practically, but he will not say how it was done.
Huh, okay.
In the interview that I read, anyway.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's convincing. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't look like too flashy.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it needed.
Yeah.
Was that your special effect as well?
Well, no, my favourite special effect was Kelly Donovan, which is Nicolas Brendon's twin brother.
His twin, yes.
Yeah. He's a great special effect. He just shows up, and then you've got two Xanders from Buffy.
Yeah. It is pretty amazing, because you just assume it's like, it's just they've split the screen, or it's just a body double. But no.
Yeah. No, it's his twin brother. He played the same role in Buffy. Apparently, there was an episode in Buffy where there are two Xanders.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite sound effect.
Well, sound effect, I have to say, and this is all your fault, I am now noticing in movies when the sound of something being smashed is wrong.
Oh, yes.
And I never noticed it before, but ever since you pointed this out on a previous episode, I'm spotting it everywhere. So yes, the scene at the end of the movie, when M shatters a windscreen, it sounds like somebody has dropped a wine bottle. It sounds totally wrong.
All right.
And I really notice it now.
I didn't think that sound was too bad, actually.
Did
thought
you
it was
not?
fine,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I did hear with the director, they spent a lot of time on sound design on this movie. They getting the sound right, making it sound realistic and not too cinematic, and you never feel detracted from the movie because of the sound. My favorite sound is the phone cracking sound,
Right.
the screen smashing, like self smashing. It's just like, it's such a, I don't know, distinct sound that you would only expect from a phone.
Yeah.
Most funniest moment.
I have to say, the moment when I laughed the most was when Amir got very, very excited and disturbed by the fact that a photograph of him showed him in a black, nondescript V-neck sweater, and he said, "I bought that sweater today. This photograph was taken today." And I thought, really? You've only got one black V-neck sweater? Really?
Yeah, I know. Oh, you should see his closet. It's just full of multicolored, patterned.
But he picked the one night when he got trapped in a multiverse of alternate parallel dimensions to wear the most boring, nondescript item of clothing that he could purposefully go out to buy for that evening. Maybe he doesn't have anything else that's suitable for a dinner party. Maybe that's what it is.
Maybe. Never know.
But it did make me laugh. I thought at least wear something distinctive that everybody can go, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that made me laugh.
And that concludes our Movie Awards.
Hi, this is Duncan Skiles, director of The Clowfish Killer, and you're listening to Movie Oubliette.
Okay, it's final verdict time. Should Coherence be expelled from the never-ending parallel universe vortex to be adored by everyone, or should it be made to write strongly worded notes over and over again in the depths of the blackest part of the oubliette, forgotten forever? Brian, you have presented us with Coherence. What were your final thoughts? Should people watch this movie?
I still think this is an excellent movie upon watching it for the third time. I really like what they did with it on such a low budget. And even on such a low budget, I think conceptually it is still a very entertaining, thought-provoking movie. I support this movie 100%.
Yeah. Yep. I can't say I'm surprised. What did you think, Dan?
Yeah, I really love this movie. I think I actually enjoyed it the second time round. More than the first time around. Repeat watches, it gets better. It does get better. And I think people maybe not accustomed to lower budget movies might find the filming style a little bit annoying, or the conversational style different to like a normal structured movie. But it's a really well thought out film. And I did really appreciate the improv. I love the ending. And I look forward to more movies from this director, James Ward Byrkit. Yeah, this is his only film, I believe.
Yeah, so far.
So make more movies, James.
Yeah, please do. Yes, I'm of the same mind. I think it works on both levels. If you like a movie where there's a puzzle that you have to work out and something that you can talk about with your friends for hours afterwards and really sort of deconstruct and figure out who is in which house when and draw yourself a diagram on a whiteboard. You can go to town on this movie. But if you just want something that's really thrilling and tense and has a good few twists along the way and an exciting finale, it works on that level too. So I was really impressed with it. I thought they did the best they could with a very, very small budget. In fact, they made a virtue out of it. The soundtrack's great. The cinematography is documentary style, but not shaky cam irritating. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed watching it twice in quick succession because I kept seeing more and more each time. So yeah, it's a thumbs up from me too.
Yeah. And if you like Buffy, just watch this movie. It's got Xander in it.
It's got something for everybody.
Yeah. It does, yeah. Okay, so let's open the door to nowhere and let it go.
I think we should go check on our cars. Bye
Be
now.
free. Well, thanks so much, Brian, for joining us on this journey to parallel dimensions and talking about doppelgangers. Where can our listeners find you on the interwebs? Where can they talk all things TV trivia?
Sure. I'm the host of the podcast's TV Trivia Pod, where again I ask questions from TV shows and going to start doing movies soon. You can follow me at TV Trivia Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And find the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Great.
Well, I definitely recommend following Brian and his podcast. And if you want to follow us, we are available on all social media outlets as Movie Oubliette. That's on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook.
And you can email us. I know it sounds a bit old these days, but we do have an email address, movie.oubliette movieoubliette@gmail.com.
And if you'd like to sponsor us like our new patron Eva, you can head on over to Patreon, where for as little as $1 you can nominate future films for us to cover, and for $5 you can get access to our exclusive minisodes, where we talk about more recent films that we've seen that aren't in the Oubliette, because people have heard of them.
Yes, indeed. And if you haven't already, please give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or whatever other podcast platform you are using.
Yes, it helps spread the good word.
Yes, increases our cult following.
Indeed.
If we even have one.
I don't know.
All right, Conrad, what are we doing next episode?
Well, we're going to be covering a really strange, sort of hard to define genre-wise movie. Is it a fantasy? Is it a comedy? What the hell is it? It is the 1992 American, I don't know, film Toys.
Oh, okay. I've heard of this movie. I know Robin Williams was in it, and that's it.
Yes, same here. Yeah, Robin Williams, Michael Gambon, Joan Cusack, Robin Wright, and LL Cool J.
In the prime of his movie career.
It's the 90s. Yeah. Directed by Barry Levinson. All I remember about this is it being like a personal project that bombed hard. So
wow.
I'm fascinated. I've never encountered it, so this should be interesting.
And it has been chosen by our special guest that will be joining us.
I know. I'm looking forward to that. Yes. It's always interesting when we get a guest who nominates something that we've never even thought of. So, yeah, should be fun.
Hopefully he can explain it to us.
I hope so.
Thanks again to you, Brian, from TV Trivia Pod, for joining us on this episode.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It was a lot of fun to be here to talk Coherence. There's a lot to talk about. This was a blast.
Until next time, listeners, goodbye.
See you guys later.
Bye.
We review the films others tend to forget. Come with us and open up the movie oubliette.
If there are a million different realities, I have slept with your wife in every one of them.